Hi, I'm glad you could join me again. Like I said earlier on, hopefully I'm going to be sharing at least a video every week discussing different topics around the game. And so today I'm back with yet another topic, one that I think is pretty interesting. A subject that most people don't really like to talk about because of the negativity affected with the subject in a way. But I still believe it's a very positive topic to discuss, actually, to avoid getting onto the negative side of it. So today I'm going to be looking at the subject of relegation in a two-part series. This will be part one of how to avoid the relegation. I've been involved in two relegation fights before. One was successful, then the other one, well, we just managed to get away with some lessons. And so with a combination of both the lessons that we have got over the years and also thoughts really and ideas, I thought I would put together this piece so that we see how we can share a bit of knowledge around this subject. So how to avoid the relegation. Before we even look at anything that could be tactical, administrative or other things, I think the first thing is that once you realize that you are up for a relegation fight, the mentality has to be right. You have to then put on a very positive mentality and believe that you are going to be able to survive the drop. Whenever you are in the relegation zone, it's really difficult to escape the relegation zone because teams that are around you will win. The teams that you expect to win a particular match, you don't win it. The teams around you win. On the day that you win, they also win. Maybe on the day that you drop points, they may equally drop points or they may win. So it's really a spot of bother to be in the relegation zone. So getting into it, number one, aside having the mentality right, number one, I think you need to keep it simple. By keeping it simple, I mean the coaches must then begin to adopt a simple language. What happens when you're fighting relegation is that the players usually are defeated, and so they don't want things that are complicated. They don't want things that will look like burdensome to them. So basically just adopt a simple language. Keep it as simple as possible in terms of the approach on the pitch, in terms of how the instructions are given, and equally in terms of how you want to approach the training sessions and the final execution on the field of play. It's important that you keep it simple. It's equally important that you keep it basic in terms of tactics. For example, in the Zambian setup, if you look at tactics basically, and when you want to bring it down to formations, the formation that most players are comfortable with or have grown up playing is the 4-4-2. I think I've said this in a lot of videos. And so usually you have to get back to something that the players can easily connect with. As long as you want to bring in something that may seem foreign to them, chances of you getting the most out of them would really be very, very slim. You don't have to make them feel overburdened, like I said before. So it's like giving three simple instructions. When you don't have the ball, you do ABCD. When you have the ball, you do ABCD. It's that simple. Apart from that, anything else might be too much. It might sound like jargon. It might sound like a tactical overburden. So keep it that simple. Tell them what to do in possession. Tell them what to do when they don't have possession. It's equally important that during that time you, under keeping it simple as well, that you don't overplay. I know, and there's been a trend lately of teams trying to play out from the back, teams trying to maximize on possession and things and whatnot. But I think at times teams overdo this, and for a team that is trying to survive relegation, you don't overplay. Keep it as simple as possible. And very importantly as well, under keeping it simple, it's important that you learn to manage the pressure. The coach must learn to manage the pressure. The players must learn to manage the pressure. The thing about pressure is that whether you're coaching at the top of the game or at the bottom of the game, there's always pressure. Whether you're the ones that are leading the table or you're the ones that are at the bottom, there's always pressure. There's pressure, for example, at the top, there's pressure in wanting to win the championship. There's pressure in wanting to qualify for certain competitions by virtue of the position you finish in the league. If you are, at the bottom, there's pressure of trying to get out of there. You might be in the mid-table, but you're trying to go into higher reaches. So there's always pressure to perform at whatever level of the game you are playing it. So first key, I think, in surviving relegation is trying to be able to keep it simple. Moving on, something that is more tactical related, I think, is that number 2, you have to learn to keep clean sheets. Look, there's no substitute for clean sheets. I've always believed, and I've always told the players that I've worked with over the years, including coaches in our conversations, that there's no substitute for clean sheets, really. If you're able to keep clean sheets, then you're always going to give yourselves a chance of winning football matches. The fact is that as long as you don't concede, you're not going to lose. And well, I'm not advocating for teams to play and not to lose, or to go in and play ancient football, as some coaches have said over the years. No, but then it's important that you keep the clean sheet, because it always gives you a platform upon which you can go ahead and win a match. After all, if you don't concede, you might as well go away with a point if you're not able to score. But if you score, well and good. We've heard of teams that have won 1-0 consistently and have gotten as high as possible. And so it's important that you keep the clean sheets going. It's also important, as you try to keep the clean sheets, one thing that you must ensure to do is that you must adhere to the principles of defense, as basic as they may sound. Things like depth, things like delay, things like concentration, or both numbers and the mind, are very important, actually. Look, you are trying to deny the opposition space in which to play. You're trying to deny the opposition a chance to come to your goal and whatnot. So it's important that you adhere to the principles of defense in that order. Equally, it's important to apply and adhere to the principles of attack. So as much as you are trying to put the ball away from your goal, it's also important that you try and be on the offensive on the other side. Logically, once when you have the ball, you're not going to concede unless you're going to have a very bizarre own goal. But as long as you're keeping possession of the ball, then you're not going to seek to concede. Obviously, once you have possession, the next logical thing that could happen is that you may succeed that possession, and once you lose possession, you are then already beginning to defend. So that is why I said earlier on, you have to apply the principles of defending. So basically, the principles of defending and the principles of attack go hand in hand. You are not really going to do one without doing the other, and you expect a perfect job. If you do one without the other, if you still manage to get away with the result, then well, that's one of the very lucky days that you can ever have. Number 3, I think it's important that you play off the GSA. The GSA is basically the goal scoring area. This is the area which your opponents are really going to attack, or mostly where most of the goals are scored from. In the absence of a tactical board, I think we're going to be a little bit creative. So when you look at this field of play, this is what you term the goal scoring area. If you see, most of the goals that are scored are actually scored from around this area. It really takes an exceptional effort to score a goal from around there, and mostly it may be due to maybe indiscipline of the goalkeeper, or the goalkeeper not calculating his angles very well. But most of the goals are actually scored from around this place. So when we say you're supposed to play from the goal scoring area, remember earlier on I talked about not overplaying. So ideally, you are supposed to move these players up the pitch. Let them move up the pitch. Once your back 4 moves a bit up the pitch, then your number 6 as well moves up the pitch. It means you're now going to be playing from almost around this area. That in turn will mean that you are going to be close to playing a medium block as opposed to a low block. Whilst a low block has saved a lot of teams well, there are times that if you play too deep, like the area or like the initial structure, if you play too deep, it's possible that once you are breached, look at how low these guys are. Once they are breached, then the next thing they are accessing is their goal mouth, and their goalkeeper is going to be in trouble. So ideally, you're supposed to play as high as possible to prevent to reduce the threat on your goal, basically. The other reason why you are supposed to play off the goal area, if you are playing around this place, is that you are going to increase your recovery time. Look at the distance between here and here. Even if you lose the ball here, by the time it gets there, sure, you should be able to make to recover and start playing once more. So play a bit higher. and once you play a bit higher or around this place, keep it compact around this place, then you can easily try and recover before the ball gets there. But as long as you're playing somewhere here, chances are that whenever you're breached, then the next thing they're accessing is your goal mouth, then the goalkeeper is in trouble. The other thing when you're playing off the goal scoring area is that it becomes easy for you to reorganize, because there is a bit less pressure. Trust me, if you're going to be marking from around here, the chances of you making errors are not as high as here, because here there's a lot of pressure. Subconsciously, as a defender, for example, they already know that once they succeed position here, then there's trouble here. So if they are playing around here, it makes them play a bit under less of pressure, and they're able to organize themselves and reorganize themselves. And it's also important really that you just try as much as possible to play in the opponent's half, because playing in the opponent's half, what that will mean is that you're going to compress the field. So imagine if you're playing this deep, it becomes difficult for you to get into the other side, combining with the first point that I spoke about. But if you're able to play in the opposition half, then you're compressing the field, increasing your own chances of actually getting into their zone or into their danger areas. So I hope that was clear enough, and that we can follow through. So basically, try as much as possible not to play from around here, but push it up a little bit to try and get all those advantages that I've just outlined. Number 4 is very important as well. I think you need to use your set pieces and dead balls very well. Look, I've attended a number of briefings by teams, or observed briefings by teams. Interestingly, I've seen them talk about what they are going to do when attacking and what they are going to do when defending generally, but I haven't heard much of them talk more about set pieces or dead balls. But trust me, the statistics that you are going to see regarding teams getting advantage from set pieces and dead balls are huge, are immense. Not too long ago, if you remember, at some point Liverpool had to engage a throw-in specialist. That tells you how much attention you have to pay to dead balls or to restarts. Over the years, you know that Kalushawala was renowned for the goals he got through free kicks, or Juninho. We could talk about Philippe Coutinho. Really, you can't do away without set pieces. Now, when you're talking about set pieces, you must pay particular attention to detail, and you maximize accordingly. So set pieces, you have to break them into two. There is the side of the offensive and the side of the defensive. Now, on the defensive, you must ensure that you remain tight. Seal the important ends. Again, going back to my simple sketch here. For example, if you are facing a set piece from this end, it's important that you have, regardless of how you are playing, whether you are playing man-to-man marking or you are playing zonal marking, it's important that you have some. If you are facing a free kick from around this place, it's important that you have some blockers. For example, under here, you can put blockers here, then you can have man markers here, or zonal markers, mixed marking, or whatever you want to call it. Put blockers there. In short, what I'm trying to say is you must be tight enough. There should be one or two people that are blocking the ball here to prevent it from going on the other side. Because once it goes on the other side, then you are in trouble. The same thing happens when you are playing from this end. So you must ensure that you keep it tight enough as far as defending set pieces are concerned. And if there's one thing that is very difficult to defend is set pieces. When they are building play, it's fairly easy to defend, because you can basically seal off some loopholes, and you can predict really the patterns of play. But set pieces, especially with the things that they practice at the pitch, it's very difficult. You must ensure that you block those loopholes. On the offensive side, I think it's important that you try to be as efficient as possible. Look, there are certain routines that you can discuss from the training field, and if they are implemented well, you should be able to get joy from set pieces. But at the end of the day, the joy from set pieces really will come from the advantages that you are going to create as a team. Whenever you have a set piece, you are the team that has the advantage. In that moment, you are the most powerful on the pitch, and so you must ensure that you use it to the best of your abilities and remain as efficient as as possible, especially if you are going to stay up. Let me know if your thoughts about this content. Let me know what you want us to be discussing going forward. Let me get your feedback about this subject as well. I would want to get your views. I'm sharing my views. Equally, I would want to get your views so far about the things that I've spoken about, and things that I'm yet to speak about. Moving on with our subject, I think number 5. It's important that you maximize on the chances that you create. Usually when you're involved in a relegation fight, like I said earlier on, it's a balance of trying to get the defensive side of the game right, but you should equally remember that you have to score on the other side if you're going to increase your chances of staying up. And so in trying to get the balance, you realize that the number of chances that are created really is not as much as possible, especially in the second round of leagues, regardless of what league you want to talk about. You can talk about African leagues, Zambian league, in the APSA Premiership. You can go abroad in England and wherever. Defenses become very tight usually in the second round, and so the number of chances that are created really is very low. So you must ensure that you maximize on all the chances that are created. Look, these are times that you need a player who will probably have a conversion rate of 1 out of 2 or 1 out of every 3 chances, because there are times that you go for an entire 90 minutes without creating a chance, and then maybe at the end just get one chance which you must use. If you don't use it, then you're always going to be going flat in results. In emphasizing this point, if you remember, in the 2020-2021 Zambian Super League season, Ghana were almost going down until they did a very important piece of business. They brought on Alex Ngonga. Remember how his goals managed to keep the side up. Really, look, Ghana were going down. Had it not been for signing Alex Ngonga, I think they were going to go down in a lot of ways. But look at the number of goals that he scored when he came on board. Literally, he kept the team up. Obviously, there was that drama of the Green Eagles being docked points, points being given to Ghana, and all that drama. But even aside that, I think Alex Ngonga did a fantastic job, and he's an example that if you are able to maximize on your chances that you create as a team, then surely you are setting up yourself on a trajectory towards surviving the drop. Years back, if you remember, a year before Leicester City won the league, that was the 2014-2015 season. I believe, yes, a season before they won the Premier League. If you remember, in that season, by Christmas, they were actually bottom of the league, and they were 7 points away from safety. And so, as you know, by Christmas, the real team is you have played the first round and you're about to get into the second round. I think they were the second side in English football in more recent memory to actually stay up after being bottom of the pile by Christmas. The other team was West Bromwich Albion around was at 2004-2005 when they actually stayed up on the last day of the match of the season. Looking back at Leicester reference that I've given to in that season, in the last possible 30 or 27 points, they managed to get out about 24 points. The only loss in that run was against Chelsea, and key to whatever they did, the results they got was actually the goals. And the leading goal scorer that season was, I think, Leonardo Joao, the Argentine striker, who got about 13 goals during that stretch. So look, there are examples everywhere that if you're able to score the goals, if you're able to maintain your efficiency in front of goal, you are really going to survive relegation. So quickly running through my discussion for today in this 2-part series, this being part 1. I said earlier on that it's important that you keep the mentality of the team right, and they must first of all recognize that they are in a relegation fight, number 1, and number 2, they must convince themselves that they are up for the fight and they are able to survive the drop. Once you do that, then you must ensure that you keep it simple in terms of your tactics and your delivery on the pitch as a coach. Equally, the players must try and keep it as simple as possible on the pitch as they deliver. Because remember, so simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, as they say. Later on, I spoke about the need to keep clean sheets, which cannot really be overemphasized, because as long as you don't concede, then you have a chance of winning a particular football match. It was also important that you play off the goal scoring area as far possible from the goal scoring area as much as you can. It's also important that you use set pieces and make your throw-ins or dead balls count. And then it's important that you maximize on the chances that are created. If you do these first 5 things, I think then you are setting yourselves up for possibility of surviving a drop. If you add the next 5 that I am going to talk about in part 2, then surely you should be able to survive, unless something dramatic really happens. Thank you for joining me. As always, let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. If you like this content, you can share it, and advise where you think we can do better, what topics you want us to look at going forward. But that aside, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to be back this time, same time next week. Cheers. Bye bye.